bruising blow to American freedom. But this battle is not over. It can't be. There can be no negotiation between freedom and coercion. This law tears up our constitutional rights. It forces us to enroll in a one-size-fits-all health plan, whether we want it or not, whether we can afford it or not. It expands the powers of the IRS to come after us and penalize us for failing to comply. Nothing in this United States Constitution permits that. In fact, those 28 beautiful words in the 10th Amendment expressly forbid it. Worse even, with this law, for the first time in history, the government will actually dictate how doctors treat privately insured patients. So even if you're an Aetna or Cigna or Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare, your doctor is going to be forced to do what the government tells him to do. Under Section 1311 of this law, insurers can pay only doctors who follow whatever dictates the Secretary of Health and Human Services chooses to impose in the name of healthcare quality. Well, that covers everything in medicine. Whether your cardiologist uses a stent or a bypass, whether your OBGYN decides to do a cesarean section. Under this law, your medical treatments will have to be entered into an electronic database. Your doctor's decisions will be monitored by the government, and ultimately your doctor will be forced to choose between doing what's right for you and avoiding a government penalty. Now, the president said that he was going to solve the problem of the uninsured by making health plans affordable. But that is not what this law does. This law enrolls 85 million people in Medicaid. 85 million, 31% of all non-elderly Americans will be on Medicaid by 2014. It is welfare reform in reverse. And to pay for this vast expansion of Medicaid, how is it done? Well, there are $500 billion in new taxes in here. And now in Washington, they're already starting to float the idea of a new tax. They call it the VAT. I call it the Vanishing America tax. And in addition, to expand Medicaid, they are eviscerating Medicare. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul, only in this case, they're robbing one generation, grandma and grandpa, to expand Medicaid. They're taking $525 billion out of Medicaid over the next decade, just when 30% more people will be out of Medicare over the next decade, just when 30% more people will be enrolled in Medicare as the baby boomer generation turns 65. Those numbers don't add up. Many more people, many fewer dollars. It's going to mean fewer hip replacements, fewer knee replacements, fewer angioplasties, fewer bypass surgeries, fewer cataract operations. Those are the 5 procedures that have virtually transformed the experience of aging. There was a time when older people were trapped in wheelchairs because they had crippling arthritis, or they were stuck in a nursing home for their later years because they were so out of breath from clogged arteries that they couldn't get up and move around. Now older people enjoy their later years active and enjoying their grandchildren, traveling in sports, shopping. This law is going to undo that progress. Even Richard Foster, the chief actuary for Medicare, has warned that some hospitals will stop taking Medicare. Where are seniors going to go when their local hospital stops taking Medicare? In summary, this law lowers your standard of care. It puts government in charge of your care. And it takes away something as precious as life itself, your liberty. And that's why we are moving this battle to two new fronts: the US courts and the fall elections. 21 states have filed constitutional challenges to the Obama health law. 21 states. And I'm proud to say that on August 2nd, in the state of Virginia, federal judge Henry Hudson sent the administration out of his courtroom with their tail between their legs. They had filed a motion to dismiss to get the constitutional challenge thrown out of court, and they lost. The defenders of freedom won that round, right? And tomorrow, in Florida, Judge Roger Vinson is going to announce his decision on the administration's motion to dismiss. And I can tell you that once again, the defenders of liberty are going to be winning. We are going to go to trial, all 21 states, and we are going to be in the US Supreme Court before the presidential election. But I'll ask you this question. 21 states fighting for freedom. Where is Andrew Cuomo? He is kowtowing to the president. Where's Charles Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand? Also kowtowing to the president. We need to elect members of Congress, including Jay, who's here. Where are you, Jay? Right. We need to elect members of Congress who will vote to defund this law in January and repeal it in 2 years when we have a new president, a president who shares our values. People who need health insurance. The Congress should have taken this 2,000-page bill and stuffed it in the paper shredder and given us a 20-page bill in plain English that people could actually read, that members of Congress would actually read before they voted on it. 20 pages, so you couldn't slip in those exemptions for members of Congress. 20 pages. So they couldn't slip in those sweetheart deals, right? 20 pages ought to be enough. The framers of our United States government wrote the entire US Constitution, established the entire federal government in just 18 pages. So 20 pages ought to be enough. The stakes are very high because if you are seriously ill, the best place to be is in the United States. A woman diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States has over a 90% chance of surviving it. In Europe, her chances are less than 80%. Do the arithmetic. That means she's twice as likely to die. A man diagnosed with prostate cancer in the United States has a 99% chance of surviving it. It is not a death sentence here. But in Europe, 1 out of every 4 men diagnosed with prostate cancer dies from it. And if someone in your family has what we currently call an incurable illness, this is the nation of hope. This is where the cures are developed. Since 1950, the United States has won more Nobel Prizes in medicine and physiology than the entire rest of the world combined. And that's why this is the fight of our lifetimes, to preserve this great system of medical excellence and innovation. There's another fight we have to win. The fight against big government. Government is growing beyond the consent of the governed. The more government spends, the less we have to spend on our families. During the first year of the Obama administration, local, state, and federal government spending consumed 42% of GDP. That means 42% of everything all of us produce going to work every day. 42% of the fruits of the labor of all Americans who worked that year. Can you imagine? Only once before in American history did government ever consume 42% of the fruits of our labor, and that was during World War II, when we were fighting for the future of our nation and the future of freedom around the world. Nothing today justifies appropriating 42% of the fruits of our labor. And yet they keep spending more and more and more. We have to make sure that every single candidate for every office, no matter what it is, local, state, federal, takes a pledge to push that spending way down so we can get it below 40% again. If they can't remember that number 40%, tell them to write it on their palms. You know, the president has said that he has pared the federal budget to the bone. He's eliminated all the waste, right? It's laughable. And I've read his budget. He increases foreign aid by 50% over the next 5 years. Foreign aid. We shouldn't be sending money to other countries. That money belongs right here at home in the United States of America. We need that money to pay for the things our families need and to pay for our mortgages. Of course, one of the candidates running for governor this year, Andrew Cuomo, doesn't think that people should have to pay for a mortgage just because they took it out, right? He thinks the taxpayers ought to come along and do that. He is one of the chief perpetrators of the subprime mortgage crisis. That's right, he was when he was at HUD. The professional politicians in Washington are pushing spending up and up and up to the levels common in Western European countries. They don't get it. We don't want to be Europeanized. And now they're talking about a tax very common in Europe, the VAT. They call it the value-added tax. There's no value added in this tax for us. This tax is going to destroy our standard of living. Can you imagine adding a tax of 20, 25, 26% to the cost of everything we buy? It's inconceivable. And yet Europeans put up with it because it's hidden. They can't even see the tax. It's hidden in the price tag. So the government can slip more and more tax in, and nobody even knows to object. We have to stop those fat rats in Congress from passing that tax right now. And of course, we have a tax rat of our own right here in New York, Sheldon Silver. Sheldon Silver. He has turned the Empire State into the welfare state, literally. And he wants to put more and more taxes on. The fact is, when you look at Washington and at Albany, our government's been hijacked. It's been hijacked by people who don't share our values and who do not value our freedom. And that's why the Tea Partiers and the Patriots of Central New York are so important, because they're going to stand up to these professional politicians. We have a president who bows to foreign leaders and apologizes for American greatness.
Where's the birth certificate?
Yep. And right here in New York, we have politicians who want to build a mosque on the ashes of the people who jumped 110 stories from a burning building to avoid a worse death. Build it on the ashes of firemen and policemen who rushed downtown to save those Americans, knowing they wouldn't come home. My office is right next door to Ladder Company 51. And when the captain pulled the truck out and headed down Lexington Avenue, he dialed his wife on the cell phone and he said, "Honey, I know we're not coming back." They shouldn't be building a mosque on his ashes. It's un-American. It's the wrong thing to do. This is the year when we have to elect people who share our values, and who are committed to retaking our government. This is the year. This is the year when we have to secure our American way of life before it is gone forever. This is the fight of our lifetimes. This is the fight we can win.